Okay, hi, so my name is Heinz and I'm going to be showing you some Pro Tools basics for this webinar. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new session in Pro Tools. So let's just call this web 01, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it at 24 bits and sample rate at 48 kilohertz. Okay, so I'm going to create the session, get that going, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a few pieces of audio and a MIDI file. So for this, I'm just going to select the two audio files that I want to use. Both of these are stereo. That's just how it got bounced previously. So I'm going to option, so on a Mac keyboard, so option, or Windows that would be alt, and I'm going to select the files that I want and I'm going to click and drag it in while holding alt or option. So the reason why I'm doing that is just so it actually force copies in. Otherwise, what might happen if I later on, if I move the audio files, they might actually get lost. Okay, so because it's copying the files in, not referencing the files from their original location. So let's just quickly change my tempo to 74. Currently it's on 120. That is the default for Pro Tools. Okay, so let's just listen to what we have over here. So super spacey, just like guitar and bass. I wasn't trying to make it super complicated, but that's all that it is. Okay, so very basic. So what I want to do for this is I'm going to set up a aux track, so we can have some reverb on the guitar. Bass should pretty much be fine as is, and then I'm also just going to add some drums in here. Okay, that's what the MIDI file's for. So while we have the audio in, let's quickly import the MIDI. So I'm going to jump back to my Finder, and I have a MIDI file in here, which I'm also just going to click and drag in. Okay, it's going to ask me where I want it. Please place it on a new track right as the session starts. Okay, there we go. So this is just a blank MIDI track. I just pre-programmed some kick and bass, some bass drum, kick and snare in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use like the basic Pro Tools plugin, drum plugin, which is called Boom. So I'm going to select Boom over there, and that should get loading. And I'm going to use the retro kit. I think it was, no, not the retro kit. Let's see which one sounds best. Let's start on Urban one. Okay, so I'm just going to play that. That doesn't sound too bad. Let's just wait for the snare. Kick's a bit spiky. Snare's a clap, that's okay. Okay, I think let's just use that for now. Okay, alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my MIDI track. Let's first just rename it. So to rename it, you just double click on the nameplate, and I'm just going to call this Boom just because that's a plugin I'm using, and that's going to be the drum. Okay, so hit OK, and then I'm going to open up my MIDI editor. So for this, if I listen to my track from here, there's this first clap. So what I want to do is I just want to start getting the song going because it's very spacey and very boring. So what I might want to do is I might want to add in some hats. Okay, but this is going to take forever if I actually just have to click and click and click using my pencil tool. So what I can do as well is if I go to the top, select my pencil tool, make sure that it is on line mode. Let's just from here, if I then click and drag, it'll easily just immediately create a hi-hat pattern just straight off of the, let's just go up to, there we go. It'll just, with the line, it'll just straight click and drag, it'll just, on whatever your grid is cut up to, it'll just place those hi-hats. Pretty simple. Okay, so let's just go back to over here and let's just hear what this sounds like, just see if it actually works. Okay. So this track is very dry at the moment, definitely going to be adding some reverb and probably even some delay. what we should do, I'm going to grab my Smart Tool. So if you're not sure what the shortcuts are for the Smart Tool, that would be F6, F7, and F8. That would be the Trim tool, your Selector tool, and your Grabber tool. But if you hit any 3 of those keys in combination, that activates the Smart Tool. So now that I've got that, in this part over here, I'm not entirely happy with that. It's kind of where the slows down. I might want to change that. So let's get rid of that. And with my Smart Tool, I can also add in MIDI. So double click with this. I can also easily just click and place some of the MIDI clips or the MIDI information just by double clicking. So let's just click in. That pretty much sounds exactly the same. Let's just test this one. No, definitely not any of those. Yeah, let's just use these. And all I'm going to do, select over them, drag them up, and these are all a bit loud at the moment. So with my Smart Tool selected, I can change the velocity of all these MIDI clips. So velocity is basically just how hard a MIDI note is being played. I can change the velocity of these notes by just hovering over them and then hitting Command. So that would be Control on a Windows keyboard or just Command on Mac. Click and just drag down, and I can easily just pull those down a bit more. You'll see right in the top corner it's displaying the actual velocity value. So let's put it down there. That should be good. And let's just quickly listen to it again, just make sure that it works. Okay, and there we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna, while we're at it, I'm just gonna Command S, so that's just the shortcut to save. Okay, so we've got our drums down. So let's maybe start looking at adding an aux track for our guitar, so we can get set up a delay and a reverb. So guitar is the first track right at the top. So let's just pull, why is this track not changing size? There we go, I'm just not clicking properly. So let's grab this one. And I'm just going to change the track color. I know that's not really important, but it just helps me see what I'm doing a little bit. Okay, so over here I have my guitar track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new send. So in the send section over here, I can do this from either my mix or edit window. So this would be my mix window. What I'm going to do is click on one of the send insert slots, click on that, go, let's use new track. Okay. New track, stereo, auxiliary input, and I'm gonna label this as guitar reverb. Okay, create that, add that in, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use this controller, which is the send level, and I'm just gonna bring that up. Okay, so let's try it at 0 for now, and on my guitar reverb, you'll see that it says it's sending to guitar reverb, and at my input section on the guitar reverb track, it's actually saying it's receiving on the guitar reverb. So those would be internal mix buses that have been labeled when I create a new track or sending to a new track. Okay, so guitar reverb on here, I'm going to select that and say reverb. Let's just use a deverb for now. It's one of the standard ones you get with Pro Tools, and I'm going to open up this fader. Let's bring that down, and so this is currently on a large hall setting. Let's use a large plate setting, and I'm just going to boost the seconds, the decay time a bit higher. So let's make it like 7 seconds. That should be more than enough reverb. Well, just for guitar, let's see what it sounds like. Okay, and I'm going to bring this up. Okay, and there's definitely some reverb going. Okay, we can increase the size on that just a little bit. Okay, let's go from the beginning again. Let's just hear if it's adding the right effect. Yeah, I think it sounds good. Okay, so now that we've done that, that's one way you can create a send in Pro Tools, is just by going to a send and saying send to new track. But let's say you want to send multiple tracks and you don't necessarily want to use this function. What you can do as well is you can use buses. So what I'm going to do, back to my guitar track, click on one of the sends options, so send slot B, and I'm going to say bus, and let's just use bus 1 and 2. Okay, so bus 1 and 2 is available, and I'm going to create a new stereo aux track. The shortcut to create a new track, so on Windows that will be Control-Shift-N, on Mac that would be Command-Shift-N. Okay, and over here I can see what new tracks I can create. So I'm going to create a stereo and then auxiliary input track. Okay, let's create that. I'm just going to change this one's color just so it's slightly different green, just so we know everything's related. Once again, like, it's really not important to color code everything, so guitar for green, that's what I was thinking when I did this, but it's not necessary. Obviously, it just makes moving around a bit easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to guitar delay. Can't see what I'm writing. Delay, there we go, that should be good. Okay, guitar delay, and what I'm going to do over here is let's see what delay plugins we can add. So multi-channel plugin, and let's use a mod delay 3. Okay, open that up. Alright, and for this I'm just going to choose one of the presets, so let's just see what they have. 120 BPMs. Let's try a modulate to medium. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, and I'm gonna start playing the track, and let's increase the send level. Okay, so now that we've added in the reverb, we might want to start looking at adding some delay. And what we did with this is we went to our send selector and we went new track. But what I'm going to do now is there's just the other way we can do it as well. I'm going to click on the B slot over here in the send area, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say bus 1 and 2. Okay, so this is going to open up a send for bus 1 and 2, and then what I'm going to do is, so I'm basically just doing this the manual way instead of just having it link up to a different track. So I'm going to say Command-Shift-N. That's a shortcut to create a new track. If you don't know the shortcut, you can always just go track new. Okay, the Windows shortcut for this would be Control-Shift-N. So what I'm going to do now is let's grab a stereo auxiliary track, and I'm going to create that. Okay, and to rename, once again, just double click on the actual track nameplate. So guitar, can't see what I'm writing, guitar delay. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, just very important, otherwise this won't work at all, is if you go to where it says no input currently, because that means this guitar track is not receiving, or the guitar delay track rather, is not receiving any input. So I'm just going to go there, go to bus, and then we are sending over bus 1 and 2. So I'm just going to select bus 1 and 2. Okay, so start bringing that level up. Doesn't have to be all the way up just yet. And then what I'm going to do on my guitar delay track, multi-channel plugin, and I'm going to select delay, and let's use the mod delay 3. Okay, so that's opening up that, and if we start playback now, let's just mute the reverb so you can just hear what this delay is doing. Okay, so it's adding a delay effect on there. But let's get this slightly big. Let's see what a slapback delay with chorus sounds like. Okay, we could use that. Unmute the reverb. Maybe a bit too much chorus. Let's see where's the rate for the chorus. Okay, I'm just going to pull that down. Yeah, that's slightly slower. Okay. So. Alright, so now we've added in our chorus, and that's sounding pretty good. So what I think we should do now is we have everything. We have all our guitar tracks, we have our drum tracks. I think what we might need to do is let's quickly do a drum reverb just on the boom track as well. So let's say select new track. We can use this setting again, stereo aux, and I'm just going to label this as drum verb. Okay, and let's create that. Okay, it's going to open up that send as well, and let's keep it for there for now. That should be good. And then on this drum verb, let's put a, you'll see that this is automatically labeled that correctly and they match. So this is not the same as using the buses. It's slightly less complicated, works just as well. Okay, so multi-channel plugins, reverb, where's that? That should be over here. Okay, reverb, and let's use one of the other ones. I think we should use space. Okay. Alright, and then with space, let's use a room reverb. Let's see what they have. Yeah, this default one should be good. Let's try it out. Okay, so let's bring up the send level and start playback. So what I might want to do, that drum is not sounding the kick drum. I'm not too happy with that. So what I'm going to do just before the reverb, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a multi-channel EQ and just add in a one band. And all I'm going to do with the one band is I'm just removing some of the lower frequencies that are getting sent through from that boom track. So let's just drop that just a bit. So it's all the way at 1 kilohertz now. Let's drop it down to like, let's try it at 100. Let's see, around 100. That should already sound a lot better. It's still pretty spacey. I'm gonna start bringing that up. Okay. Let's just bypass it, make sure what we're doing is actually has a useful impact. Yeah, I think it sounds a lot better without that. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that kick sounds a lot better. Okay. And those are just some of like the basic ways you can quickly add some reverb into a track, quickly edit some MIDI. It's not really complicated. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, please send us messages, please ask us questions. Yeah, thank you for watching.